Hi guys, will the Conservative Party disappear in the near future? Well, somebody who used to be very close to the general feeling amongst Tories, Tim Montgomerie, the founder of the influential Conservative Home website, believes it's all falling apart. So the commentator who switched to Reform UK recently appeared on Newsnight, where he explained how the pillars that uphold the Conservative Party are all disintegrating. And we could see one of the most successful political movements in Britain completely disappear. Have a listen to this.
I think the Conservative Party is seriously in danger of not existing anymore.
Do you mean that?
Yes.
And haven't people said that before?
Well, they have, and I wouldn't say,
What do you mean it's in danger of not existing? Let's take that through to its logical conclusion. What would have to happen?
So, back to what I was saying earlier.
Yeah.
Political parties aren't legal entities. They're like social ecologies.
Yeah.
There's newspapers, there's conservative associations, there's farmers. There's a whole network that sustains a political party. It's all disintegrating. You go to conservative association meetings and there's no experience. There's someone at party conference, a lady of about 70, I remember telling me, she said, one of the big things that's changed is whenever we go to conservative association meetings now, most of the time we talk about how to win elections. When I started in politics, we talked about what was going on in the country.
Is completely correct. And we can look back over the last number of years that the Conservatives did not focus on what's happening in the country. They focused on how to win elections. And people like Dominic Cummings were extremely successful in using things like focus groups and focusing on individual constituencies as opposed to having a wide message all over the country and trying to win as many seats as possible throughout the country, or as many votes, I should say, throughout the country. The focus was, no, let's focus instead on a number of constituencies where we can maximize our impact. And they were successful in doing that. They were not focusing on what's good for the country. The Conservatives over the last number of years have certainly not done that. But they knew if we're able to concentrate our vote in a number of constituencies, then we can win these marginals and then we can hold on to a pretty significant majority. And Boris Johnson and Dominic Cummings were successful in doing that. So instead of looking at what's happening in the country, they went, okay, let's focus on these constituencies. And Labour, it seems, has been listening and monitoring and copying that to a certain extent. Because what happened recently, Labour's share of the vote declined, but the number of seats they won was massive. On the other side of the scale, you have the Green Party or you have Reform UK, who won a significant number of votes, but the number of seats they won in the House of Commons was pretty small. That's as a result of first past the post. So the Conservatives used first past the post in order to maximise the number of seats in Parliament at the expense of the number of votes that they received. And of course, they had the media on their side, they had business on their side, but that's all fallen apart. And Tim Montgomerie is correct when he says that. The Conservatives used to be able to rely on farmers. They can't do that anymore. They used to be able to rely on business owners. They can't rely on those anymore because of what they were doing. Brexit, austerity, a lack of investment. The Conservative government weren't able to attract investment. Boris Johnson and his comments about business. And of course, Liz Truss and her mini budget blew any idea of the Conservatives being fiscally responsible out of the water completely. So they've burnt their bridges. So it's going to be very difficult for them to rebuild trust. It may happen, but it's highly unlikely because there's somebody else in town. And I've mentioned this before. There was a time where if you didn't vote for Labour, you voted Conservative. If you didn't vote Conservative, you voted Labour. So that was the average person on the street. But now there's the possibility of voting for the Green Party or the Liberal Democrats and of course Reform UK if you're on the right. So the Conservatives can no longer rely on, well, people will just flip back to us when they're not happy with Labour. That day is gone. And in order to rebuild the party, you first have to admit that you were wrong. You have to apologise. And of course, you need somebody charismatic, somebody who's a true leader in charge. And they don't have that with Kemi Badenoch. So I don't believe that the Conservative Party will completely disappear, but over the next number of years and maybe the next decade, it could become a minority, small party where it represents a small section of society but still remains a political force. Let me know in the comment section, guys, what you think. As always, your comments are greatly appreciated. Thanks a lot.